Well, Chief, I want to start off with the first few weeks of the month. We've had several officers shot, 6 people found dead in a home, a shooting outside of a local high school. What is being done right now to interrupt the violence that we're seeing in Milwaukee?
The important aspect is ensuring that we understand what the lift is. Seeing the type of violence that we are seeing as a continuation from 2021, we know that we need to make sure we are being available, being communicative with our partners, ensuring that we have the right resources. I know we're also doing some redeployment of resources, investigative teams, doing less property crimes, more the unfortunate violent crimes of the non-fatal, the homicides. But also, again, like I said, working with our partners, understanding that there is a role for OVP, understanding there's a role for some of the work that the Milwaukee Homicide Review Commission is doing. So using all those inputs, but also, again, some of the normal things that police can do in regards to having targeted approaches to those who are doing the most harm. We have now what's called a weekly public safety review, looking at it from a holistic standpoint, targeting those who are doing the most harm, understanding who are those individuals, what groups they're part of, being focused, efficient, but also understanding that there is a collaborative approach to really truly have the impact that we're looking for.
2020 and 2021 saw a record number of homicides in Milwaukee. What work is being done right now to make sure we don't see those numbers in 2022?
Again, it's a holistic public safety review, meaning that we cannot just arrest our way out of it, patrol our way out of it. Understand that there's partnerships with our preventive care in regards to the Forum for Life, the Credible Messengers, work with NPS, seeing what we can do from the mentorship, knowing that, yes, we have to make sure that law enforcement is out there being proactive. Again, we have a really great special investigation division. They targeted the most who are doing the most harm, arresting, ensuring there's accountability, but also how do we prevent or how do we ensure that we are dealing with the underlying issues that comes into the criminal aspect of it. Seeing that our non-fatals and homicides have pretty much a conflict issue, meaning that for number one, for non-fatal, which means that someone was shot and did not die, there's argument, conflict as a cause. But that's number 2 for homicides. So we have a problem with conflict resolution in our community. As much as the police is a part of those dialogues, there's other people who have subject matter expertise of working with how do we get to the bottom of this? What is contributing to poor conflict resolution coupled with firearms? So when we look at it from a standpoint of, again, public safety, understand there's many different parts to this in regards to having the impact we're looking at. The Milwaukee Police Department understands we cannot do it alone.
I hear you talk often about community-oriented policing. What is your vision of effective community-oriented policing?
The biggest thing is understanding the respective responsibilities of our partners, whether it's government, whether it's community stakeholders in regards to those who are doing the work on the ground, the safe and sound, the running rebels, but also how do we interplay that with our law enforcement partners, federal, local, county, knowing that we have to work in a community to truly impact crime. We cannot always look at it in such a singular view, police and resident. Obviously, that's part of the whole structure, but we need to make sure that we are looking at the entire community. So I use that as a bigger picture type of approach. Effective community engagement is that we're part of these groups like it's commonplace. Not surprise, not something like, oh my goodness, it's good to see the Milwaukee Police Department's here. Too often we have not been part of those conversations. Yes, we have good community or partnerships working with the criminal justice system, meaning that, working with the DA's office or working with the judicial system or working with our federal partners. But how often are we part of conversations with those other community stakeholders? Again, like I said, Running Rebels, the Riverworks a community group, or the Near West Side Partnership. Those are true impact providers from their respective corners that we need to be able to capitalize off of. So community engagement for the Milwaukee Police Department is that we're part of those conversations, part of those corners, and that we are commonplace in being able to collectively work to impact public safety.
So as a former homicide detective who made his way up the ranks to become the chief of police, can you describe the strain that violence and homicides can put on not only the homicide unit, but also the department as a whole?
Well, one of the things that we talk about nowadays in regards to law enforcement is wellness. Dealing with that on day in, day out, understand that you are part of the lift. If there is not, there's more work coming in than the resources to be able to handle it, there is going to be a strain. You're going to have a frustration of sometimes, are you really making an impact? How are you taking care of yourself if you're always out on calls and you're dealing with, the highest, I would say, crime or stress in a community, meaning a life was lost. So balancing that from a standpoint of the department, understanding, yes, you have the lift to go out there and do that work, but also we want to make sure you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of each other. We have a robust wellness team. We have that engagement from our department psychologists, and we put it upon the supervisors and also the investigators to look out for one another and look for those signs. We want to humanize our members to understand that you're not a cog in a machine, that we do have capacity limits. We have to ensure that we're getting the best version of you. So yes, we have a directive to ensure that we're out there holding those accountable for doing the most harm in our community. But we want to make sure that the people that we're sending out, especially being a former investigator, are being taken care of, and that we're identifying that you see that there is some strain in regards to being able to truly be the best version of yourself coming to work that day.
So what message do you have for families in Milwaukee who may be living in these neighborhoods where there's shootings, homicides often? What message do you have for those families as you all continue to move forward and try to make progress?
First of all, is I see you. I understand the strain. I understand what's going on in our community. I say our because I live in this community. Born and raised, lived here, still live here. So this is not a us versus them. It's a we. Being able to have that type of dialogue and conversation of saying, how can we best serve? What is that we need to be focusing on? But it is a two-way street. We're only as impactful as a community that we serve who are going to communicate to us who is doing the most harm in the community. Yes, we have a lot of resources, a lot of different tools, but the biggest tool to use is information from residents, from those who are being harmed, those who have a vested interest in community safety. So I say this, yes, I see you, but I also have an olive branch extended. Please take hold of it. Please work with us as we want to work with you to impact violence in our city.
I want to talk about reckless driving in Milwaukee. You drive these streets. Is your son driving now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I was like, I don't know the age.
Soon.
Yeah. So you drive these streets. Your children will be driving these streets. We all drive these streets. It's quite reckless out right now. What do you think is the reason behind the reckless driving in Milwaukee?
Well, there's always that saying, idle hands is the devil's work, meaning that our children are involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in, but what is the alternative? I'm part of a lot of dialogues in regards to what do we have the recreation. I know that we're coming off a pandemic and we kind of backslided earlier this year in regards to shutdown of different locations, being the largest of is the MPS being virtual. Those are challenges for kids trying to find something to do. School is that safe place to be able to have the not only teachings, but you are provided with nutrition. You also provide with after school activities. So seeing those things be not as available as it used to be is a challenge that you see these kids will find something to do in the vacuum of something not being provided for. Not saying that all kids are just out there doing things to be, mischievous, because we also understand there are kids out there who are buying into some of the dangerous behaviors and believing that this is the way that we should behave in our community. I say to both that is unacceptable. We as a community should be working to ensure that there are things for our children to be involved in productively and positively, but also there is accountability for those who want to engage in behaviors that's non-productive, that's harming our community. So it's a balancing act, but we should be there for our kids. I understand the crisis, but I also understand the narrative is not just our kids. There's young adults involved in these behaviors, and some are full adults involved in this behavior. Those who don't want to drive the speed limit, those who don't want to stop at red lights. I got to get to work. Well, this speed limit is not for me, that's for everybody else. That's where accountability comes in. While we have issues of understanding that those who don't get the message about what it means to be driving safely, we have a traffic safety unit, we have a messaging going on, we have many different community stakeholders trying to impact from their respective corners, work with the Department of Public Works, changing the makeup of our streetscape, because we understand that it's a collaborative approach to be able to deal with all these different myriads of issues that we're seeing, whether it's our young adults, behaviors that are unacceptable to the community as a whole.
So there's a plan to reduce reckless driving in Milwaukee. When can people expect to see safer streets?
Well, I would think you'd be seeing them right now. Are we where we need to be at? No. But have you seen actually tangible results of seeing more observing police engaged in traffic enforcement, seeing more messaging in regards to billboards or public safety announcements or town halls? Been a part of many town halls with a lot of different elected officials, city and department chairs of city government. So I like to believe, again, this is more the anecdotal, because we are coming upon the 1 year anniversary of the traffic safety unit. We will be doing a reexamination of what was that impact, where was this impact in regards to the resources that we're putting forth. So I like to think that, the Milwaukee Police Department is making headway, that we're going at it in the collaborative right approach. I know that Office of Violence Prevention is working with kids in regards to the messaging, working with a lot of different community stakeholders. But yes, we do have accountability involved in that. I know we're around like the 20,000 mark in regards to citations, working with the municipal courts. So there's a lot of different resources or a lot of tools being used to impact in regards to reckless driving.
Car thefts. I mean, Milwaukee has just become this capital of stealing cars. Who's behind the car thefts in Milwaukee?
Well, I pushed back on capital. I think that we do have a car theft problem. We have identified the two highest projects that are part of that problem. But we also understand that we're seeing so much more from the car theft issue in regards to, again, this is a collaborative approach. Residents need to secure their property, be more vigilant in regards to not leaving keys in the car. We worked with Kia Hyundai in regards to providing steering wheel locks. They're only as good as you use them. So there is a approach on both sides of how do we deal with this particular car theft issue that is definitely a problem, but we also have a lot of different solutions that we all need to be utilizing. Obviously, we are investigating, ensuring that there is a targeted approach of those who are doing the work out there or the harm out there in regards to motor vehicle thefts. But we also need to stop leaving our cars warming up in the cold Wisconsin winter month with the keys in it. Leaving vehicles unattended going to the store or going inside the gas station. Understand that we also want to ensure that we are carrying that message to others. This is our problem because a lot of times we have guests and visitors that come into the city who are now aware of the responsibility of securing your vehicle and being a part of, unfortunately, the unfortunate trend of these vehicles being easily stolen and part of this overall motor vehicle theft. So it's again, twofold approach. We are working on it diligently. We have a task force out there looking at certain groups and ensuring that there's accountability from the standpoint of bringing those individuals to justice. But the unfortunate thing is we see there's more vehicles than what we can have as capacity of investigating and ensuring that, yes, you target one individual. This behavior is a little bit of it's like wildfires going around. So trying to work on that in regards to those type of issues and situations.
We hear of the Kia boys, the Kia girls stealing these vehicles. Are they just a nuisance for this department?
Well, I will say this much. They're a challenge, but they're not the only ones. There's a lot of different groups. There's a lot of, splintering off of, groups affiliated with streets, affiliated with individuals who unfortunately pass away involved in these reckless autos and violence. And so it's really trying to find ways to truly have impactful engagement, making sure that we are being a part of those conversations and have a legitimacy as police department to be able to talk to our young ones and say, your behavior is not only dangerous, but it has no future. And so when we talk about groups, there's no one group out there who's doing the most harm. It's a lot of splinter, a lot of different, very mobile, very fluid, very social media savvy. So it's not as easy as, okay, we took this one individual when you have 10 others out there, 10 other groups or 10 other people doing the work.
You've become chief at such an interesting time. Shortly after the George Floyd movement, there was the George Floyd death. There was this movement to defund police. Does the word defund and reimagining police, does that scare you? Does that anger you hearing those words?
I look at it as part of the conversation. Understand defund is re-examining what are we doing with these finite dollars that the taxpayers are bestowing upon us. Understand that we need to be always fluid in our work, ensuring that we're the most effective and efficient in what we do. Looking at other opportunities, whether it's civilianizing certain positions that used to have sworn officers, whether we're going to use non-sworn for things that can be handled by non-sworn. We as a department should be open to those type of dialogues, ensuring that we're giving the best service, most cost-efficient service to the public. So a short answer to, well, I gave you a long answer, but short answer to your question, no, I'm not afraid of those conversations.
We've talked about homicides on the rise, shootings on the rise, but not all crimes are on the rise here in Milwaukee. We're seeing declines in assaults, robberies, rapes. What do you think went into that decline, or can you maybe talk about the work that went into making sure that those crimes declined?
So it's still part of a re-examination of 2021. Obviously, coming in 2022, we still have a little bit of getting into the details of how these trends are moving. I will say that I love our robust relationships, whether it's with the Sojourner Truth Family Center, or we're talking about again, the Office of Violence Prevention, or looking at the Milwaukee Homicide Review Commission, or what we have now is called the VR-FAST, Violent Reduction in Public Health and Safety Teams. These are collaborations where we're bringing in other different partners, whether it's MFD, Milwaukee Fire Department, or the Department of Health and Human Services. We understand the lift is unified in regards to they all have subject matter expertise to add this conversation of public safety. So my belief, again, talking only anecdotally, is that we are starting to capitalize. I believe 2021 was a shaping of what that conversation and role responsibility looks like. But as we got into the latter part of 2021, entering into 2022, we're starting to figure out what is our role and how to continue to conversate and ensure that if there's something about housing issues, who can be the best partner to work on that? Mental health issues, who's the best partner to work on that? Because our wheelhouse, our main wheelhouse, is law enforcement. Obviously, we have to engage. Obviously, we have to be part of these conversations. But that is our role to say we are part of the conversation, but not driving the conversation when it comes outside of that specific role responsibility that this organization is tasked with, which is law enforcement.
We've been able to hear quite a bit about all the things that your officers are doing. So what is your message to officers in the rank and file during roll call and when you speak to them daily?
Absolutely proud of them. Absolutely understanding that there is a great lift in the work that we're doing right now within the city, but as a larger whole of the law enforcement community. But the men and women of Milwaukee Police Department has been diligent, has been steadfast, as we see certain, specific anecdotal acts of heroism, because I will say this, every day we have acts of heroism, but we don't always get to see all of those myriads of acts that sometimes don't get the type of attention that they do. But as your leader, I do see them. I read about them. We are recognizing them constantly, whether it's going to a roll call saying thank you, or seeing them out there in the streets and saying thank you, or recognize them formally within a letter, or even what we have is called merit awards. It's important for us to acknowledge great work, because at the end of the day, you can never say thank you, pat someone on the back, or show them some type of recognition because of the hard work they're doing.
How is your leadership style different than past police chiefs that we've seen?
I never really tried to compare myself to anyone else. I just basically say I walk my pathway. I truly understand what it means to be a servant leader. That's my wheelhouse in regards to understanding I am here to get the very best out of you in regards to what resources, what support, what training, mentoring, developing. Understand that you are a person and that I should be working diligently to get the best version of that person, whether it's putting more of a robust wellness team, looking for other things to support the work that you do, the training. We brought in ABLE, Active Bystander for Law Enforcement. This is how officers are trained to intervene on what the residents or the citizens expect of us. I cannot give you expectations if I'm not willing to give you the training that support those expectations. So I know what my role is. I'm the individual to get that type of work product out of you that you can be proud of. And whatever resource, training, mentoring, developing, I'm there for you.
You're a product of Milwaukee. Your wife is a product of Milwaukee. You have 2 kids here. How does your background help you in your role every single day?
I believe it gives it the level of legitimacy, genuineness, the integrity that you're looking for those public servants in your own community. That being from the community, being a product of our community, there is trustworthiness that I am doing for the best reasons, which is our community. I always tell people, don't always listen to the words I say, just look at my acts. In regards to me coming into this role, I've always been part of community engagement, being a part of so many different efforts, positive efforts in our community. I'm just elevated a little bit more on a larger platform, but it's always been who I am. So there is I see you're in it for the right reasons type of style that I hope exudes to the public, but also that, this is me. This is the core of who I am in regards to being a part of positive solutions, moving the lift forward together.
As you target violence, homicides, reckless driving, car thefts, how do you measure success when you take those issues on?
Well, one is always evidence-based. You look at, what's the reporting? Is it lessened? Do you see less incidents occurring? But I always like to say that's only one part of the measurement. Other measurements is, what is the level of engagement you're getting from partners? Are they saying, this is really something great going on? MPD is part of these conversations, not to drive it, not to, poo-poo it, but to actually be part of solution-based. What are residents saying? What are the surveys? One of the things we're looking at is, how do we get that feedback of what are we really accomplishing here? Do you start to see what I say is always the biggest problem for any law enforcement department, especially in regards to what has taken place 2020, 2021, even in 2022? Trust. Are we part of these conversations of we're getting more information? Sometimes they say, well, you have an increased cost of service. Is that always a bad thing? Because if they didn't think that you would be able to be a viable solution, they wouldn't call you. So if you see an increase in cost, maybe that's not a bad thing, because now more people are saying, we see you as a viable solution to our problems. So yes, I definitely understand what the stats mean. I understand that we have to always look at the uniform crime reports and the part 1 crimes. I know all that. But we also have to look at what's called or considered the intangibles in regards to what is the relationship look like? What is the environment look like with policing and the not only residents, but also other different partners? Are we being asked to come to the table more often? Are we being asked to be part of the party? That is something that I'm always interested in and love to get that feedback.
Are you seeing that now, coming to the table and being asked to come to the party? Are you seeing that in your first few months quite yet?
Absolutely. And it is so empowering to know that there are solutions that are being brought forth, that we are being considered to be part of solutions, having that type of relationship with, whether it's community activists, whether it's with the different segments of our community. Again, I understand that we have trust in some parts of the community, somewhat trust in others, and no trust in many others. We have to work on all three and ensuring that we continue to have that part of our strategy of what engagement looks like, that everyone has a voice and that we should be responsive to everyone. It's a good thing to see the embracing and seeing the responses and seeing that we're not considered to be us versus them, that we are saying we.
Chief, what do you hope your legacy will be?
That we have something sustainable. That this is not a one-hit wonder with community engagement, that the seventh floor team, meaning the executives of this department, have those who will replace them who's ready to step into the role as if nothing ever happened. That we have the continuation of communication and trust with our residents, our community partners, that we continue to get better, just like fine wine. This gets better with age. So a legacy that I would love to see, that they're not even thinking about me, that they're seeing the results of what this strategy of community engagement, of being part of a collective response to public safety as just something that's always been.
What is it like to be in this neighborhood where you grew up?
It feels good. Being able to be on the block that basically was my upbringing, still seeing a lot of the homes around here that was there when I was back as a child. Knowing that there is still a lot of history here. I'm just pleased to be able to say that I can come back and have this type of, 360.
For the boys and girls from Milwaukee who are able to watch your journey from this neighborhood to the chief of police, what do you want them to take away from the work that you put in?
I will say that this is a story that anyone can have. Understand that this is about what is going to be your pathway, your goal, that no one is given a glass ceiling where you can go. That what you believe in, what you are, associating yourself with in regards to who is your, group that you hang around and, the activities you get yourself into helps give you a guide that pathway that can say that, this is what success looks like coming straight from the neighborhood.
Who shaped you? Who do you really attribute to your success?
Starts off with mom and father. Understand that education was a very big component in our household. But I would say over the course of looking from the past and present and the future, looking to individuals like Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, looking in regards to, local heroes, Vale Phillips, Reuben Harple. Dr. Howard Fuller was a graduate of North Division. He was our superintendent when I was at the high school. Those are individuals that I look from, their accomplishments to say that I see success in them that can be me, but also there's encouraging and inspiring in regards to knowing that these are individuals, whether, you talk about, like I said, the Reuben Harples, the Vale Phillips, the, Thelma Sias, all these individuals around me that shaped the belief that I can make it too.
So it's possible that Milwaukee could have a black police chief, a black sheriff, a black mayor. What's the significance to that, and even being a black police chief and having people look at you and seeing themselves in you?
I will always believe that there is hope, that there is a role model, positive role model, that our young ones can look up and say, I see myself in that individual. I believe that this is about inspiration to our community. Yes, we are people of color in these positions, but we still serve Milwaukee. We understand what that lift looks like. We understand responsibility, and that we are going to be impactful in regards to that responsibility. So I'm happy to be a part of a select few, but I know that at the end of the day, it's because of those experiences over the course of my life that shaped me, that got me here.
What was a young Jeffrey Norman like when he was running around these streets and playing?
Rode my bike all around the block here. That pole right there used to have a milk crate attached to it where we played basketball on it. There wasn't gates up behind Messmer, so we used to cut through there to go over to Burger King. This was home. My brother and I, we had good friends, Lonnie, and, a lot of individuals on this block that we grew up together, playing, tag or cops and robbers, or, again, being a kid.